Should probably shave for this, right? Nah, let's go. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to part 4 of my weight loss journey. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, 2, or 3, I will put the links in the description. So if you remember back in part 2 how I said do not starve yourself, this is exactly why. After I decided to stand back up after being so far past the point of exhaustion, I went over to the mirror and looked at myself. Not because of how happy I was to look at how far I had come, but because I was trying to talk myself into just continuing. You know something needs to change when you have a full-on conversation with yourself for about an hour. Pretty much went Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm not sure exactly how conversations with yourself are supposed to end, but this one ended with both sides agreeing that we wanted ice cream. Because, you see, I never let myself cheat. I told myself on my first day off that I just needed a break. I need to let myself go a bit, give myself a treat, and just enjoy. You know, give myself a reward for losing 80 pounds from when I started. Well, that reward turned into a disaster. So let me tell you about the first time I binged so far to the point that I was pretty sure I was going to die. Last video I said that I was not prepared for what I was about to do to my body for the next weeks to come. Well, my kitchen and my pantry were far less prepared. It started off for me just wanting to get some ice cream, nothing crazy, just from the shop down the road. God came down and produced what I'm pretty sure was the most delicious cup of ice cream I had ever had. The first thing that I did was call my mom and just yell at her over the phone. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm eating what I'm pretty sure unicorn milk would taste like." Now, obviously, it was just a normal cup of ice cream. But like I said, I had never let myself cheat on something so indulgent. And after I finished the cup of ice cream, I didn't know what was going on with myself. I had never had such a strong craving for food. Usually if I got a craving, I could just say, "Nah man, you are staying on track, you don't need that." But this time was different. This time was uncontrollable. I got up and grabbed a box of cereal and poured myself a nice big bowl thinking that that would satisfy the craving. That bowl of cereal turned into every piece of food in my kitchen, and I had just went shopping. It got so obnoxious that I actually grabbed a salad bowl, filled the entire thing with a tub of oatmeal, half a jumbo container of peanut butter, and bananas and sweetener, and just cooked that thing right up, ate the whole thing. Within 3 hours, I had eaten an entire week's worth of food. This time, instead of lying underneath my pull-up bar, collapsed from exhaustion, I was lying down in my kitchen, surrounded by empty packages, a spoon, and an empty jar of peanut butter. My stomach was so engorged and bloated that at that point, all I wanted was the pain to stop. I went to bed that night feeling the guiltiest I ever had in my life. I thought that I was just gonna gain all the weight back overnight, not knowing that really all I probably should have done was just continue to exercise and eat right. I woke up several times that night in just a pool of sweat. The next morning when I woke up, I thought that since I had screwed up so bad that the right thing to do was just to not eat. I went back to the store and stocked up on everything, and I did not eat a single thing that day, which was a colossal mistake because the following day was just a repeat episode of the day before. I once again ate everything that I had just bought. The behavior of me binging and then trying to fix it the next day continued for the next 3 months. I was still in Orlando with the same job and the same really rough schedule. I would continue to try to do P90X every morning with only like 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and then binge like 4 to 6 times a week. After those 3 months, a job opened up over in Jacksonville, Florida. Honestly, I wasn't too concerned about what the difference in the job was. I just thought that if it was gonna be a better schedule, that I would stop binging and fix myself. So I took it and ran with it. However, the schedule became even worse. It turned into a 24-hour thing. I would be going out some nights at like 3 a.m. making keys for cars. I gave up. I didn't know what to do. but my body was being destroyed and my mental state was getting even worse. I have never told anybody what I am about to say. And I can't believe that I am actually about to say it. I was getting so far into a dark space, just this hole. I lost so much hope. I was pretty sure I was just gonna gain all the weight back and just become another one of those statistics of people that lose it all and gain it all back or more. I hated what I was doing. I didn't like where I was. And whenever I would be at work, I would be driving the work van, and whenever I would pass over a bridge in Jacksonville, and there's a lot of bridges in Jacksonville, I would just start to think of what it would be like to just drive off the bridge and just let all of my stress and all of my worrying just drift away with the river, and I wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. It would be so much easier, and just I could let myself go. I did not like where I was at this point. I had no one to talk to. I didn't want them to worry about me. I didn't want them to think of me differently. All I knew is that I needed to fix myself. I needed to get out of this dark place and just be happy again. So for the next month, I just told myself to stop. Stop stressing, stop worrying, and just eat whatever I wanted. Anytime I had a craving, I just indulged in it. I still love to work out, so I got a gym membership, and I would just go to the gym on days off and just not worry, eat what I wanted, and just slowly start to just climb out of this hole that I had dug myself. I went back home to Louisiana for a locksmith convention that was held in New Orleans. The convention lasted a week, and while I was there, I figured out exactly what I needed to do with myself. I needed someone to show me how to eat right, and most of all, hold me accountable for what I was doing. I had went from 167 pounds to roughly 207 pounds in 5 months. So after the week of being home for the locksmith convention, I flew back to Jacksonville, and the next day I hired a coach. And I chose Chris Jones with Physiques of Greatness. And I knew if I messed up that he would just tell me to fix it and be very straight to the point. 2 weeks after hiring him, I made another extremely difficult decision. One that would affect everything that I had planned in my life. I put in my notice to quit that job, and I wanted to move back home. I finished up working in Jacksonville for the next few months because I knew that I could not leave them shorthanded. And those next 2 months were the hardest part of my journey by far. When I showed Chris my work schedule, he said, "Damn man, this is gonna be hard, but we can do it." After he told me that we could do it, that's all I needed to hear. It was time to get back on the grind, get out of that darkness, and make my way in a healthy way towards my dream. These are pictures after about 9 months into my journey. This is right before I started to binge. I had gotten pretty small. My arms and chest were not very impressive at all. I was starting to get a bit sucked up in my cheeks as well. The picture on the far left and the far right were actually taken 1 week before my first binge in February of 2014. The 2 pictures on the right are after I had started to binge. You may actually recognize the one in the middle. It's the first picture I ever put on Instagram, and it is my 1-year progress picture. That's right, in my big 1-year progress picture, I had already begun to rapidly put on weight. Now, in my opinion, it was not too much of a bad thing because I was also working out at the same time I was binging, so I was putting on some decent muscle and filling back out a bit. And this is what happens when, even though you may be working out, if your diet is not in check, you will gain a ton of excess unwanted fat. I don't have many pictures in between the start of my binge to this point because I hated what I was becoming. And the only reason I have these is because Chris required pictures of where I was. A lot of people ask me if they should hire Chris to help coach them, and I think I'll just let the next few pictures answer that question for you. Each picture on the far left is from my first week with him, while the other two are within the past month. Instead of making another part just for when I was with Chris, I can honestly just wrap it up for you pretty quickly. I had a crazy work schedule with him for a little over 2 months, only really able to get into the gym 3 times a week. However, I made those 3 days count. While tracking my macros and making sure my diet was in check, I was not really doing intermittent fasting anymore. I was just making sure I hit my numbers every day. After that, I moved back home and was finally able to put in some solid work, increasing my time in the gym to what I do now, which is 5 days a week lifting and 2 days doing cardio and abs. However, at the very peak of my cut, I was doing cardio 6 times a week in addition to my 5 days of lifting. Even though right now at this moment I am not trying to lose weight anymore, and I'm trying to actually eat more so that I can put on size, I still mess up, guys. I actually just emailed him telling him that I did not have the best week. I had some days where I went a little wild, and he responded the exact way that I needed to hear it. He told me that it was all mental, and that I needed to take hold and get it right. This is not easy, guys, and I know we all have heard the saying, if it were easy, everyone would do it. I need you guys to realize that even though you may be struggling with binging, depression, and thoughts like I was having, there is always a way out. There is always a door that we can walk through to get to the other side where we may return to being happy and healthy and proud of where we are. And if you are having thoughts like I was, you should always find someone to talk to. There was only one person that I could never hold back from, and that was my mother. Every time I would call back home, I would just lose it. I never told her the thoughts I was having, but I didn't need to. She knew something was very wrong, and she may not know it until now, but just from having her as someone I could just release all that fear and doubt onto helped me so much. So don't be afraid to seek help. Even though you may be in a dark place right now, at this very moment, do not give up. Do not lose hope. Push on with everything you have. Do not take that cowardly way out. Stand up and fight, because you are worth it. You have meaning, and there is always someone that loves you. Because even though you may think no one does, remember that once you make it through, you will be able to love yourself for making it. That feeling we get inside of us that compels us to never stop, that voice that tells us that we should not quit, that is the fire inside of you, begging you to just let it free and consume every inch of darkness that lies in its path, because there is no room too dark that your fire cannot bring light.
Everything changes